my music.
Justin, let me tell you, it's an honor for me to be here. I have to show you really quickly all the vinyls that I have of your work.
I see one of them signed. That's cool.
Yeah, that's your signature. Yeah.
I recognize it. That's so cool. Thank you so much for getting those. That's very nice.
Of course. And I'm waiting for the Babylon one.
April is what I hear.
I want to congratulate you already for your third Oscar that I know you're getting for this movie. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
To me, you are a genius. How you compose, you translate words and scenes and feelings into music. How do you do that? How do you envision that?
I'm lucky being a film composer because I don't have to work in sort of in a vacuum. I don't have to just sit down and write music, write a symphony like some people do. I'm very in awe of people that do that. I get a screenplay from Damien that tells me, you know, a lot of what I'm aiming for. And then I have a movie with great performances and great production design and color. And I get to look at it and sort of be inspired by everything I'm seeing. The movie really tells me what to do a lot of the times. And I'm just doing what the movie is asking for. A lot of it, too, is trying to get inside Damien's head and understanding what he wants to feel. We always start with a few words that kind of try to get at a feeling. So in the case of First Man, we talked about words like grief, pain, grief that stretches through the cosmos. And I'm like, okay, what do those emotions sound like at the piano? So I start noodling around and trying to come up with the feeling. For a movie like Babylon, the words we used are, you know, wild, unhinged, a party, fun, you know, dance music, things like that. So I start to think about, of course, there are many other kinds of cues in Babylon. There's the romantic cues and the sad cues and all that. But that's where we started, just with those feelings. And I just always come to the piano and I think, okay, those feelings, how do I capture those feelings in notes? And I just noodle around until I have some ideas.
We can describe people by how they look, how they talk, how they behave, but also how they sound. And for me, when a score is well done, is when you can close your eyes and you can picture what you are hearing, right? And if we can talk about one character, maybe not your favorite, but one particular character from Babylon that was a little bit tricky for you to experience how that character is going to sound, who would you choose?
The hardest piece of material, the material that took us the longest to find, was the Manny Nelly theme. We ended up settling on a tune that we use elsewhere in the movie. It's the fast kind of fun dance tune that we use for the sax. We ended up just finding that if we slow it down and we harmonize it, it actually has that sort of bittersweet quality we needed for the characters. It took us a while to sort of realize that, but what took even longer and where we sort of went around and around with ideas was the instrumentation for that theme. We went around with so many ideas for what instruments are going to play it. And where we ended up settling was 3 pianos blended together. One piano is just a very beautiful, kind of mellow, gentle Steinway, kind of like this piano, mid-size, not too big and grand, but not too small, just sort of a mid-size Steinway, mixed with a second piano that is a little spinet with tacks in the hammers. So the tacks, you put tacks in the hammers and it gives it this weird twang. And then that piano was detuned a little bit. So it's a little bit out of tune. And then the third piano was a very, very out of tune and broken upright. So when you mix those 3 pianos together, you get the sweetness from the Steinway and you get different amounts of out of tune from the other 2 pianos. So you have the sweet and the sour, and when it's all mixed together, it had this sort of like fragile, broken quality that just felt like their relationship to us. So it was, you know, the tune was kind of bittersweet and the instruments gave it this sort of fragile feeling, and it felt like their relationship. And once we came up with that blend, we're like, oh, that feels so good for them. But it took a long time to discover that.
Wow, thank you for all the details of that. That's so interesting. I want to think that music can also have Easter eggs, because I heard melodies from La La Land in Babylon. I guess that was something you wanted to be so straight so people can identify that. Is there something that you like to do on other movies, that you like to mix this because it's like connecting other movies in a kind of way?
Yeah, it's funny. People have pointed out, I think the thing that people hear most of all is there's a rhythm that's kind of similar. The notes are a bit different, but in La La Land, there's the engagement party that goes like, and then in this movie, we have a thing that's like different notes, but it's like.
Yeah, that one.
So it's definitely the same rhythm. I think I'm drawn to that rhythm because in La La Land, it's kind of we do it more romantically, at least in that. But if you speed the rhythm up, it's a good dance rhythm. It reminds me a lot of, I think what I was also drawing on was some of that like 90s dance music. I was thinking, I don't know, Ace of Base and things like that have that kind of fun sort of dance feel to it. So that was there, and I think there are a couple of themes where I come back to sort of a similar harmonic language as La La Land. Like I was saying, it just depends on what the movie wants. There were a couple moments in this, especially with the Jack character, with Brad Pitt's character, where he's a real romantic. And we wanted to sort of draw on, kind of wistful romantic feelings that are the same types of feelings we were exploring in La La Land. So I'm the same composer, so I come back to certain chord changes and certain moves that I think are similar. I think one of the challenges of being a composer or an artist is how do you stay true to yourself and how do you have a sound that is your own so that people can hear it and be like, oh, that's the sound of Justin, that's the sound of. I certainly appreciate it when I can hear somebody else's music and know just after a few notes, that's John Williams, that's Trent Reznor, that's so-and-so. Thomas Newman has a very identifiable sound. I always appreciate when you can identify just in a few notes that it's that person, but you also don't want to repeat yourself too much. You don't want to just copy something you've done. So I think you're trying to walk that line between having a voice, but not truly repeating yourself. So I think that's sort of something we're trying to aim for usually.
And you nailed it. I can tell you that, of course. About your creative process, I'm not a composer, but I can talk about myself when I'm editing a video that I do. Sometimes it's hard to see the same scene one time and another, and you get obsessive because you want to do it the best thing. But sometimes it's like I have to leave my work aside and just concentrate on something else. Does that happen to you when you're composing, but then you're adding one instrument and you're listening to the same melody, but like you're like, I'm done with this, I need to give a break, or not?
For the most part, I'm a pretty obsessive person with my work. So I go down these rabbit holes and I do just go and go and go on a piece of music. That being said, I've kind of gotten better over the years at sort of what you were saying of walking away and clearing your head. I was worse at sort of taking care of my own mental health, I think, back when I was working on Whiplash and I was working on La La Land. These days, past couple of years, I've gotten a little better of, I'm going to go on a walk. If I'm working here where I live, I'll go drive up to the hills a little, go on a half an hour walk. Or when we have offices together, we were on a lot together, the editing room in my office. We were working on the Fox lot for about a year as we finished this movie. And sometimes I just go on a little walk, just a 10, 15-minute walk around the lot, just to kind of clear my head. So I've gotten better at doing that over the years. But I also I don't like to procrastinate or just like, I'll just work on something else. I'm usually, if I'm focused on a cue, I'm like, I need to break through. I need to find the solution. So I'll just keep going and going. And it's great to have a collaborator like Damien who's also focused, because there's somebody to commiserate with and to talk to and be like, I still don't have the Maninelli thing. I'm still like struggling, and we'll talk about it, and he'll come into my office and he'll look at stuff, and it makes it easier to not have to go through that alone.
Justin, we have to wrap, but it was a true honor. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being this open. Thank you for playing the piano with me. I'm so happy to have you here. So thank you. So nice to meet you.
Good to talk with you, Diana.
It's been a really complicated but gratifying score to put together.